I need to get out of here. Hi, I'm Aaron. I'm an aspiring fantasy writer, and I've just gotten into Yale University full ride. Honestly, I don't know what to think. I'm grateful, I feel crazy, like there's butterflies in my stomach, and it's been my dream for 4 years, and now that I actually got it, I don't know what to do. Before the semester started, I wanted to reflect on my journey so far, on why I did all of this. And I think it's because I was really desperate. Not for praise and prestige, although praise and prestige is cool, you know, wow, fame, yeah, haha, yeah. And maybe I should do more self-reflecting on that part. But I think primarily because I wanted to go to a place where being me wasn't weird. So, welcome to LifeQuester episode 1, getting into Yale University. God, that sucks. Oh my God. Ever since I was a kid, I was always told that I talked too much, that I was just too argumentative, that I was simply too intense. Maybe, you know, there's a name for what I was on neurodivergency or whatever, but I think what I remember most is how lonely it felt. And I'm not trying to like victimize myself or anything. I was, you know, really well off. My parents didn't reject the core of who I am. They pulled me out of Korean public school and made the financially taxing decision to send me to an international school. Our family's pretty well off economically, and I had friends that I cared for and I hope somewhat cared for me. I think when I talk about loneliness, I'm talking about more in the sense that I felt like nobody was really seeing me for who I was. And maybe that's a universal thing, I don't know, but that's something that I really feel now looking back on my experiences. Nobody, you know, seemed to care about things like I did. Like I would frickin', you know, nerd out about frickin' Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood or frickin' Percy Jackson, and everybody would be like, oh, there's that weird kid again. And it kind of feels like you're like in a zoo, you know, and all the other kids are like, that's Aaron the iguana, you know, he's just like that, just ignore him. Meanwhile, I feel like I only felt alive when I was doing something that matters to me. Honestly, when I was a kid, and still now to maybe a little bit, but I was so freaking socially unaware, and I didn't realize that caring too much on its own, that can hurt people. Because at the end of 9th grade, a teacher that I idolized told me in front of the entire class that I was way too egotistic, that I would socially completely fuck myself and never succeed. And essentially she told me that I had a toxic ego. And that really stuck with me. Because the criticism felt very, very wrong, but it also felt very, very right at the same time. But at the time, I was just like, damn, I really suck. I started to think that maybe I was a narcissist. Maybe I did need to tone it down. I didn't consider that perhaps at the time, I didn't know how to be intense and myself, but kind and empathetic at the same time. So I kind of overcorrected. Instead of learning to be empathetic and care for others while still having confidence in myself, I learned how to be palatable. I became a people pleaser. I downplayed my ambitions. I was like, oh yeah, I like creative writing, you know, magic goes boom boom, haha. Being humble and staying true to yourself are good things. I was just insecure. I made myself smaller because that wouldn't scare anyone, right? You can't be hated when you aren't seen. So I turned to my writing. So in the summer before, in grade, I think it's 8, yeah, it's 8, I had written a book in like a month, you know, and honestly, it was a horrible book. It was like 50,000 words. It is kind of a product of my desperation of living a meaningless life. And it led to a lot of things. Like I met lifelong mentors who helped me polish my craft over the next 3 years. It let me reflect on myself because I saw kind of fragments of myself in my characters, and art always mirrors the creator, right? But oh my god, I was ass! It's so bad.
Nah, cause okay, wait a second. Let's take a look. Okay, this is Draft 1, Criterion City, a king city located in the heart of Adversia. There, wonders litter the streets. And then the first thing I mentioned is huge trees. Walk towards his destination, because where else would he be walking to? Or a spiel about the clear blue eyes and the jet black hair. What does slightly tinted white skin mean, bro? Oh my god. However, anyone who even passed by on the street felt a presence of something different. Oh hell nah, bruh.
Now, as our writing nerds call it, there was the inciting incident. In the second semester of 9th grade, I went to Yale MUN Korea. It was like a model United Nations conference hosted by Yale undergraduates. And between sessions, they held this student forum thing where people could ask questions about Yale. And I attended. I was kind of dragged there. Like, I didn't give a crap. Like, I didn't really know what was going on. I was in 9th grade. I've never heard of this school before. Then at the forum, this kid asked a really basic question. What makes a Yale student a Yale student? Honestly, I wasn't even paying attention because I thought they were going to give a dumb, boring answer about, oh, you need to be SAT 1600, GPA 4.0, you need to be passionate. To my surprise, they laughed. Then they said something that I'd never ever forget. They gave an example of their friend who was obsessed with chairs. Apparently, this Yale student, this Yaley, had read every single online resource available about chairs. They were obsessed with what we sit on, like chairs, like the chair I'm sitting on. And they said that that is an example of the average Yale student. And I think in that moment, I thought for a split second, whoa, if I went there, that place where, you know, the weirdo who likes chairs isn't really a weirdo, but it's typical to be them, maybe that's somewhere I could actually belong in. Because in that split second they were speaking, the place they described felt more like home than anywhere that I had ever been. So after that, some time passed. I developed this secondary interest in philosophy, specifically ethics. I think that being told who I wasn't acceptable back in 9th grade led me to search for a way to live a meaningful life because I didn't want to be a horrible narcissist. Surprise, surprise, you know. And I kind of kept pursuing that interest. I read all the books. I signed up for this like weekly seminar thing that was pretty cool. It like forced you to read one philosophy text and debate for 3 hours. You know, it was pretty cool. Then, after a while, in 10th grade, I managed to win the International Philosophy Olympiad, Korean Nationals, to become the Korean champion, and I managed to get honorable mention. While I didn't really realize at the time, being at the IPO really confirmed something with me. It was how good it felt to be surrounded by people who get you and actually be accepted for who you are. I was surrounded by these mega geniuses. I couldn't even keep what they were talking about, like deontology and all these fancy dancy like blah weekend blending-isms. Like I didn't even know what was going on half the time. But honestly, I don't think I've ever been that happy up until that point, being there around those people. 10th grade overall was a really big year for me. I participated in a lot of other competitions. I won a scholarship to a creative writing course hosted by Immerse Education at Oxford University. I also made a Discord server for the writers and friends I made at the Olympiad and the summer program. And that Discord server is still here. It's called Writer's Playground. We exchanged writing of every genre. We debated things like freaking random ass stuff, right? Like we'd sit down and be like, okay, why fan fiction doesn't count as real writing? No, yes, fan fiction counts as real writing. You want to fight the AO3 writers? I bet they're a better writer than you. You know, we would talk about friggin' everything. And honestly, that was the first community that I felt like I truly belonged to. But I also couldn't help but kind of wish that I have friends like this close to me in real life. Not that the Discord server was bad, but us humans, we're programmed for physical connections as well. So this brings us to 11th grade. This was when I needed to make a choice. Either to quit school and just focus on my writing, or focus in school to go to somewhere that I could actually belong in, somewhere I could flourish. And honestly, I don't know what the hell I was thinking. Like my writing at a time, it wasn't like absolutely horrible, but like, look at this, like, what was I cooking back then? Like, so after a period of reflection, I decided I would go all in school. Because I realized that what I truly needed wasn't just infinite time so I could like sit down and write. It was a place where I could be motivated to write because of my peers, because of the people around me. So I wrote Yale Imagine on a Post-it and I put it on my computer and I kept going. I said yes to every single opportunity that came my way. My grades in 10th grade, they weren't bad, but they certainly weren't Yale worthy. I needed to walk
The fuck in.
And I don't want to like romanticize or victimize myself because at the end of the day, I made my decision, but I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a struggle. I'm really not a great planner, and that really cost me until I kind of got used to it. I was freaking crashing out daily like it was my job. But I pushed through. I finished grade 11 with pretty good grades, went to 2 great summer programs, Iowa Young Writers Studio and Yale Young Global Scholars, where I met even more lifelong friends, which I added to the growing Discord server. Then after all of that, came time for university admissions. Common App! Whoa! I have so much PTSD. I got deferred.
All right. Fuck.
I applied to Yale, restricted early action, and I got deferred. This meant that they were going to postpone their decision until the regular decision, which came out a couple months later. It also meant that I needed to apply to my other schools just in case I didn't get in, because let's be honest, that was pretty likely. So I applied to 14 schools. Thankfully, I got into most of my safety schools and my fit schools, which are like the schools that are reasonably easier to get into, although they are great schools, with pretty large scholarships. But then I started getting rejections from most of the top schools that I had applied to, then that I was really hoping I'd get into. And I started to think, maybe I've done something completely wrong. Maybe needing financial aid as an international student was a turnoff. Maybe I wrote the essays wrong somehow. I don't know. I was genuinely just crashing out. I felt like I've done everything that I possibly could, but it just wasn't enough. Honestly, I don't think I would have survived without my friends at school and obviously my friends in my growing Discord server. Then IB Day came, where all the Ivy League schools release their results. And I'll let the reaction video play out.
It will be my last recording, let's see.
Whoa.
Bro, I don't want to click it, bro.
Click it.
Do you want to set your phone up somewhere so it's not shaky? Maybe up against the box?
Wait, let's. Okay. Okay.
Good, hey. Good, hey. That's so good.
Okay, this is the one where I'm expecting a rejection. This is Princeton.
Okay.
Bro, why is the loading so slow? Yes, open application. Thank you. Hello. Why else? No, I know if I got in because it's gonna explode. Rejection? Rejection? Question mark? Rejection. I didn't really care about the past two. Bro, I actually can't. I actually can't. This is brown. Schrodinger's cat. Fuck. Okay. Rejection. Okay. It's okay.
I was in fact not okay. I was dying inside.
Last one. Bro, I don't want to open this. Oh, this is about to be a very depressing day, isn't it? Don't want to.
I had gotten into Yale. Full ride, tuition, housing, food, medical, insurance, and activities fees included. My friends cried, I cried. I was so extremely grateful. Now, it's the summer before Yale. I'm taking that post-it off my computer. I'm working towards my next dreams as a fantasy writer. I'm looking back on my journey so far. And that brings me to why I'm making this video. Even as I fear of being too self-indulgent, too egotistic. I wanted to properly say goodbye to the person that I was for the past 2 years. Not because I hate who I was, but because now I don't need to constantly prove myself to survive. The person that needed to get out of here was kind of running away from himself, wanting to be understood when he didn't even understand himself. But maybe all he truly wanted was to find his meaning. And now that I'm here, I realize the chapter is far from over. I've gotten out now, but that's not the end. I want to build a life that I can be proud of. So, follow along as I undergo more life quests. Everything from surviving at Yale to, I don't know, eating corn dogs every day. We'll see. Well, I hope to see you around. Thank you for watching.